Kei ngā maunga ka weka weka, kei ngā waiwha naka naka, ngā kōkō muka o te hui nei, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Anei te reo mihi o Ngātirangi Wiwihi o Ngaitarangi me Ngaitahu kia koutou katoa, ko Sani Ngātai ahau. Kia ora koutou katoa and welcome to our hui topa ki tēnei wānanga i tēnei rā, where we'll be exploring AI and te reo Māori. And just a little pānui before we get into it is that please remember if you have any pātai along the way or as we are going through our kōrero today, if anything pops up, please chuck your pātai in the chat and hopefully we'll get time to throw those to our pai kōrero today. Hoi nō rā. Today I'm joined by Associate Professor Te Taka Keegan, he uria no Waikato Maniapoto, Ngāti Parau me Ngāti Whakaue. Te Taka is based at the University of Waikato and is one of the leading voices in technology and language revitalisation. He's worked for years at the intersection of Reo Māori and digital tools, and he's just given what I've been told a resounding kōrero at Parliament, a live demo of a Reo Māori speaking AI, which we will be exploring today throughout our wānanga. Now, if this is the third live stream you've attended, no mai hoki mai, if this is the first one you've joined, welcome to the best live stream of the week of Te Wiki o Te Reo Māori, because you have myself and Ahorangi Te Taka here. Tarara, tēnā koe te matua, no mai ki tō tātou pai kōrero, tēnā hei timata i tā tātou kōrero i tēnei rā. How did you come to focus on language revitalisation and technology?
Tēnā koe Sani, o tira tēnā tātou. I've got a little bit of background in technology as a computer engineer, but as a Māori working with computers, I realised that there was something kind of missing. So way back earlier in my life, I stopped working on computers and went back and started learning Te Reo Māori, and then pretty much after that built a career around enabling technology to support Te Reo Māori or enabling Te Reo Māori to happen, to occur in technology. Technology is such an important part of our lives, and for those who, like myself, who consider themselves language activists, we need to find avenues that we can use our reo, speak our reo within technology, because that's the world we live in, that's the future. So it really came out of a desire to want to live in both worlds kind of at the same time.
Technology is a significant part in our lives, and I'm sure many who are listening, watching today can also probably attest that things like AI and ChatGPT and others have totally become a tool that we all gravitate to and use. But kei a koe tētahi tirohanga hou ki tēnei mea te atamai hangahanga, tēnā ki a koe he aha te atamai hangahanga te AI.
So really, AI is a technology that can mimic intelligence. It isn't intelligent, but it mimics intelligence, and it does it really, really well. It's been a technology that's been worked on for quite a few years, and it's always been like a dream. A computer would be as clever as a person. Lately, over the last couple of years, that dream's come into reality. For a whole bunch of tasks, a computer now is much better than a person. So AI is really just technology that can mimic intelligence, and it's getting so good that it's hard to tell what is real and what is the computer anymore. And yeah, so really what we've been looking at as well, if it can do all of these things in English, how can we support the use of it in Te Reo Māori? So that's kind of what we've been looking at a lot lately.
And what are some of those main key focus areas that you've been looking at?
Okay, so like I consider myself a language activist, so how can this tool speak Māori? How can it think in Māori? How can it respond in Māori? So it's been playing around with those kind of things. And fortunately or unfortunately, some of the AI tools that are created overseas can respond in Māori very, very well. And then that raises a whole bunch of concerns. So that's kind of where we've been looking at, really, engaging with our tool via our language. Because ultimately, most of the time we're engaging with our tool with our keyboard, but a day will come when it'll be mostly a spoken interaction. So I can see a time where Māori traditionally was an oral language, then it kind of moved to quite a written language. It's kind of starting to move back to be more of an oral language. And so there's some technology that can support that. And yeah, that's the work we're trying to do, in making sure that support of Te Reo Māori is authentic and that we control it, basically.
And I know some of the kōrero we had earlier about AI and Te Reo, and that there's a lot of areas that people probably are using AI to support their mahi, or that rangatahi may be leaning into it a bit more to support their mahi at kura. What are some of the, I guess, major shifts in language revitalisation that you're noticing that are good and also maybe not so good for our reo?
So one of the key issues is that ChatGPT and some other AI like Claude and a bunch of others can speak Te Reo Māori really well. They can speak it really well, and it's quite seductive. The things with these AI is that they're available 24/7. They're not very expensive. Most of them are free. And so often for younger people, it's easier to ask their phone or to ask their computer a question about Te Reo Māori or a Māori topic. It's easier to ask the technology than it is to go back and ask their kaumātua or their parents, because the AI doesn't get angry if you ask the same question over and over again. It doesn't get angry if you ask it in the middle of the night. It doesn't like growl you if you have the wrong kind of pronunciation or anything like that. So there's a lot of support that the AI tool will provide that is different than if you actually have to go and speak to a human. And one of the issues with our children at the moment is they find it more comfortable to talk to their technology than they do to talk to people. So that's one issue. Another really important issue is that at the moment, the responses that the AI are giving, we as Māori don't control. The Māori responses it's giving, we don't control. It's controlled by large international companies that are based overseas. And that's a real issue as well for a number of significant reasons.
And we will move on, but I do want you to, I do remember a conversation we had about you reflecting on some of those issues and highlighting some of those things around, I guess, AI's singular view of te ao Māori, and that it can't always contextualise, this kōrero tuku iho means this to this certain iwi, but he kōrero anō ki tēnei, or ki tēnā rohe, ki tēnā rohe, ki tēnā rohe.
Yeah, so a response from an AI in Te Reo Māori looks good, like the syntax is good, the full stops, the commas, the macrons are all in the right place, so it looks good, but a lot of the nuances of our language aren't listed, and plus the response is like, it's like I call it a colonised version. It's a colonised version of our truths. And that's an issue because as Māori, we're comfortable with lots of truths. So for example, we have the Māori New Year. Some iwi recognise the Māori New Year with the rising of Matariki, some recognise it with the rising of Puanga. We're comfortable with that. We're comfortable with different iwi having different versions. But this tool won't do that. It will say, here's the correct version. So it's like a sanitised, colonised version of one truth. And that's never a Māori way of thinking. It's never a Māori way of acting. We support multiple truths. So that's a danger in the tool. Not only will it start changing the way we're speaking our language, it's going to start changing the way we're thinking if we're not aware of it. So we need to be aware that it's doing this, and we need to kind of put steps in place to guard against this kind of thing happening.
And I guess what are some of those paitawhiti, which I suppose will have to become paitata very, very soon, that can guard us against, you know, some of these things that you're starting to notice in AI? And I guess, do they make you excited?
So I think a key thing is having mana motuhaki over our reo, having mana motuhaki over our mātauranga. And you could argue we don't have that at the moment. It's an overseas tool generating our language, generating our knowledge. So a key issue is, how do we return the mana motuhaki of our reo, of our tikanga, of our mātauranga kia tātou anō. And for me, that's some of the exciting things, because I think we can do that. We can build technology that we can control. They can speak our language. They can give our versions of the stories. For me, an exciting part is to be able to have a version that's iwi-based, because our different versions are iwi-based. So building versions of AI that support one iwi dialect, that support one iwi aspect at looking at knowledge, support one iwi way of speaking. And if we could have a half a dozen different large language models around the world, so if you wanted to connect to different sides of your whakapapa, then you could hear the stories. You could hear the stories in a version of the language that's synonymous with the stories, and then that's synonymous with the thinking. This isn't something we can do straight away. This is a pai tawhiti, but then that's kind of our outlook anyway. We generally build systems not so much for the present day, not even so much for the next generation, but for the generation after that and the generation after that. And I think it's exciting to be able to think of what kind of tools our mokopuna and our mokopuna's children and their children are going to be engaging with, because it'll be in te reo Māori, it'll be a reo a iwi, but it will be a knowledge system as well that's based from an iwi. I kind of think it would be good if, I grew up like 20 years from now or 30 years from now. So I think the future is exciting. I think there's some real possibilities for us to have mana motuhaki over this technology and over our own knowledge systems.
And I guess as we continue to invest and build these tools, and hopefully they do bridge those knowledge systems and those who will carry those, just heading to a pātai from the audience, do you think the accessibility of AI has any negative impacts, i.e. less dependency on our kaumātua, those who are the current holders of knowledge?
Definitely yes. I think technology in general has negative impacts on our younger generation, because the ability for them to converse and to mix and mingle kanohi ki te kanohi isn't so strong anymore. So that's an issue, like getting them off their phones, getting them off their computers, but then taking away the need to learn stories from our kaumātua such that they can get these stories from our computer, I do think is a negative thing. What we really got to think about is, how can the places where they are going for those stories be kaumātua enabled or be kaumātua enhancing? How can we kind of shift that engagement? But yeah, totally, I think it's a negative thing, but it's going to be difficult to stop it.
To stop it. And I guess we could also look at it in the sense that AI could become a way for kōrero tuku iho to continue to live on, so that it's not so burdensome on, the few kaumātua who do have that knowledge still.
Yeah, I think we will be able to create structures that iwi have control over, that, like you say, shifts the burden from one or two particular kaumātua to like a collective, and then with the right access, with the right whakapapa, the right people can access that kōrero. And I think we have a lot of information that's stored in our archives, that's stored in our records, that we can reinvigorate and bring back to life, such that it would seem like our youth are actually engaging with that people. There's a lot of good things that we can do, providing, I guess, that we believe that it's possible. So yeah, if we can believe that we can do it, then there's lots and lots of opportunities.
Just got another pātai here from our hunga mātakitaki. What benefits are you most excited for as we develop these AI tools to support our reo revitalisation haerenga?
So in terms of supporting reo revitalisation, really it's making appropriate language tools available at your fingertips. Well, not even at your fingertips, more at your ears. So a time is going to come when we're going to be able to ask our phone or our device something in te reo Māori, and the response that comes back is going to be authentic, it's going to be from our dialect, it's going to be from our old people's thinking. And the day that happens is going to be an awesome day. So, the future, I think the future for our young moko is, I think, looking good because of how technology is going to enable them to engage, to interact with our past.
And what do you think we need to do to build an AI that can do that? What are the things that we should start doing now to, influence something?
Yeah, okay, so AI is built on data. So one of the key things we need to be doing as Māori and as iwi is protecting our data, digitising our data, protecting our data, getting our data ready for enabling it to become available through these tools. So clearly protection of data is the first key thing. The second thing, I think, is just to believe that these tools are possible. Building a large language model takes a lot of resources, a lot of money and a lot of time, but we're never going to build it if we don't believe we can build it. So just having a little bit of a belief that we can build these technologies. And then the third thing is, let's go and build them. If we believe we can do it, let's just go and do it. Just build it.
I do want to touch on this first demonstration we have here. What are some of the, as we think about language revitalisation and thinking about all the, what are they? Whāinga to language revitalisation, corpus, te mea. What are some of the things you're starting to notice now in tools like this that you can see, rawara-ness is kei te pai, if that's a pātai.
There was a time when I didn't really believe that technology could support us in the way that we really desire. There was a time that I used to think, really, kanohi ki te kanohi, face-to-face is the only way to learn some of these things. But now I'm starting to see that some of these AI tools are very trick. They're very clever. Sometimes a little bit too clever. They're very seductive. But there's some real significant opportunities, not just to build real support, but enable Māori to follow their identity, to enable Māori to connect with their whakapapa, and to really stand up as Māori. I think if we can get an AI tool that can connect a person to their own ancestors, their thinking, their ways of doing things, then it can really embody, embellish, it can teach our children to stand up strong as Māori. So Reo is important and Reo is a part of it, but there's opportunities to support connections to identity that I think we can take up.
And this is probably a hard question, and you can give a medium bureaucratic answer if you like. But when we think about AI and, I guess I'm of the generation that is probably going to lean into, all the technologies that we have on offer. Things like ChatGPT can teach you how to become policy analyst and, 10 easy steps. And I guess when we think about language revitalization or language thriving, I guess we want to lean into the tools that we have to make those advancements we need for our reo. Where do we see the skilled expertise like language translators or kaiwhaka Māori, and is this something that we have to be wary of as we?
So I think they're more important now than they were before. I think we need people knowledgeable in the language to be able to prove what's coming out of these tools and say, well, actually, no, that's not correct, or there's nuances missing here. Especially dialectal or like iwi experts. The beauty of our language is in the differences in our language. And a tool like this, an automated tool, will never be able to show all of those things. We need our iwi experts to be able to enhance, to be able to prove, to be able to make sure it's authentic to our iwi. So, those people are even more important now. And ultimately, and maybe I'm being a bit naive, but I think initial connections could happen through technology, but ultimately you need to actually go to those places, sit on that land, drink waters from those rivers, climb those mountains. You need to engage with the whenua to complete the whole connection. And we need our people to be there when that happens. So, for me, the AI technology isn't a be-all and an end-all. It's an enabler to allow our people to become, who they are and, where they really belong. So
that's a great answer, Matua. I'm sure there are many kaiwhaka Māori watching thinking, whew, my mahi is safe.
Oh, definitely safe, yeah.
For those of you watching, it feels like I'm on the breakfast chair here. For those of you watching, we have a demonstration here from Te Taka, and I'm going to do my best to describe what I'm looking at. Maybe we both can do that. I'm not sure if people can see this.
No, they can.
Oh, they can see that?
Yeah, they can see it.
Of course they can. So yes, Matua, tell me, what's this here?
Okay, so one thing we think is important is that rather than a general Māori tool, we have dialectal tools. One of the things we need our AI to do is to speak to Reo Māori correctly, proficiently, but not just general Māori. It's more appropriate that it's dialectal Māori. So there's a group up north called Te Hiku Media who produced a very good speech synthesis tool. It's based off the rangatira Peter Lucas Jones's voice. And I think the intention was this was kind of a general Māori voice. Works really well. I think we also need different dialectal voices. So we recently created a Waikato Maniapoto voice. And so it's based off a tohunga of the Reo Māori from Waikato Maniapoto. Her name is Ngāringi Katipa. So this tool was based off her voice. And basically, whatever you get it to say, it will speak. It's not actually her speaking, it's a generated voice speaking. So we did this little test here. And we got it to record a sentence, and then we got the voice to record a sentence. And so we've got a bunch of tests. So I'm going to play you 2 sentences. One of them is going to be Ngāringi speaking it herself, and the other one is going to be the synthetic voice. And then, yeah, we're not going to say which is which. You've got to try and figure out the difference. So
here we go, Homa. Little whakataitai for us all. Which do we think is the AI? Which do we think is Ngāringi?
Nā wai, ka huri te nūpepa, hei kōpai karere mā te kīngitanga.
So that's version 1, version 2.
Nā wai, ka huri te nūpepa, hei kōpai karere mā te kīngitanga.
So one of those is real.
Let's test in my inflection use here.
And one of those is computer generated.
One more time, please.
Nā wai, ka huri te nūpepa, hei kōpai karere mā te kīngitanga. Nā wai, ka huri te nūpepa, hei kōpai karere mā te kīngitanga.
I feel like the second one could be. It was the kōpai karere. Because I think that's how I would have said it, perhaps.
I think, I'm not 100% sure, but I think you're correct. I think it's the second voice that is the real voice, and the first voice that is the generated voice. You want to try one more?
Yes, please, my turn, yes.
E tū tatana ki reira te pā o kahotea. E tū tatana ki reira te pā o kahotea.
Oh. That second one did feel very natural, like it ran along well with the vowels. I'm going to say the first one was the AI, maybe.
I actually don't know.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I really need to I actually don't know for that one. Let's pretend you're right.
Oh, yeah. I'm normally am.
Yeah, let's pretend you're right, Sonny.
So that's, I guess, an example of...
a dialectual voice that's generated.
Yes.
What we can also do is, so here's this other page that we created. And what we can do with this page is we can speak into it. It'll take Māori language voice and it'll translate it into written text. It'll send that text off to an AI. The AI will generate an answer, we'll send it back, and then we'll speak it out. So we're going to ask it a question. We'll use the same voice. We've got 2 voices we can use, but we'll use the same voice. It's going to generate the answer on the fly. Let's just try this particular question here. Heaha te kai a te rangatira. Okay, so first stage has happened.
That's a big part,
This is the question.
Ko te kumara, te kai a te angatia.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
So I'm not sure if that's really correct. 50% of the time it will say ko te kōrero te kai a te rangatira. 50% of the time it will say ko te kumara te kai a te rangatira. Have you got a question you'd like to ask?
Have I got a question? I mean, actually, just responding to that answer. Maybe the AI has interpreted kumara as a philosophical sweetness of life that we are yet to attain. Anyway, sorry, my pātai.
We could ask it.
Oh, this is a Waikato Tainui.
This is a Waikato Tainui, Waikato Maniapoto voice, but the AI is a general AI. It's not a Waikato Maniapoto AI. It's a general AI. So you can ask it anything.
Does someone watching now have a pātai for the AI. Hopefully someone can type it really fast. I'll ask a simple question. Ko wai te kuini Māori?
Okay. Well, why don't I get you to ask the question?
Okay.
Yeah, just hold down the button.
Kia ora AI. Ko wai te kuini Māori?
So this is an AI tool that was built a couple of years ago.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Okay, so it's come back with an answer.
Hoki ingi tū hei tia te kingi Māori o te kingitanga I tēnei wā. Ka are he kuini Māori I raro I te kingitanga.
Well, this will be the first time ever that I'll be smarter than the AI. Take that.
You'll be
ChatGPT.
smarter than it for modern things, but like anything from a couple of years ago, that might be a more challenge.
And I guess too, though, that's, along with the kōrero around we need to be wary of what information AI is drawing its mātauranga from.
Exactly. So yeah, if you ask it anything from the news happened in the last few months, it won't know, because the model, the language model itself, all of its thinking was built a year or 2 years ago. So yeah, it's only relevant up to a certain stage, as that answer shows. So you need to be, when you're using tools like this, even when you're using them in Te Reo Māori, you kind of need to be aware of a little bit of the background of the tool as well.
Yes, of course. We have a pātai that someone would like to ask the AI. He aha te mea nui o te ao. Maiku?
Yep, kei au koe.
He aha te mea nui o te ao. Ka pai.
So
He tangata, he kangata.
we could get it to ask a little bit longer. So I'm going to do two things. I'm going to ask it to respond a little bit longer. And just as a bit of an example, so we're using the Waikato Maniapoto dialect. I want to switch it to the other voice that we have, one from Te Hiku Media. So I'm going to switch the voice. This is from Papareo, which is the Te Hiku Media. And then we're going to say, kia whakawhānui ake tō whakautu koa.
Oh, yeah, you can build on...
Yeah, well, it's remembering
knowledge it
your
knows,
last
yes.
things. So yeah, so basically, okay, well, give us a longer answer. I think it's pertinent that because this whakatauki, this kōrero actually comes from te tai tukarau, e tika ana kia rongona I nei kōrero I roto I te reo,
Tika.
te tai tukarau.
Ko te whakautu ki te pātai, he aha te mea nui o te ao. Ko he tangata, he tangata, he tangata. E he whakatau ki Māori tēnei e whakaatu ana I te hiranga o te tangata I roto I te ao Māori. E ai ki tēnei whakaaro. Aha koa ngā rawa, ngā hangarau, me ngā mea materiora o te ao, ko te mea nui ko ngā tāngata me o rātou hononga ki a rātou anō. Ko ngā tāngata te pūtake o te oranga, o te ahurea.
Ko te pai o te reo o Peter Lucas Jones, he roa I rā kōrero.
Ai.
Nā, mihi mea ka kite atu, e tika ana te whakatakotoa o te reo, e tika ana ngā backgrounds, nō reira ko te reo ka puta I te AI I ēnei rā, he āhua pai tonu. It's seductive. And koera te raru I te hiwa, it's so seductive that a lot of our tamariki rangatahi are using it. And it would be okay if they were just using it once or twice, but I think if we were to do some research and figure out how many of our Māori language speaking children are using tools like this, we would see that the percentage is quite high. And that's the concern. That's the concern in that it looks good, it sounds good, it's like, I call it scaringly good. but the nuances of our reo aren't in there. It's a single version. Aokoa he apo pai ngā kororo nei, it's a single colonised version. But most importantly, we've lost control about what it's saying to our children. That isn't something that they're hearing from a kaumātua or even a Māori entity anymore. It's not something they're hearing even from the government. This is an overseas tool spreading Māori language, Māori tikanga, Māori hitori. And that's a concern. That is the concern.
What are some of the I like that you used the word seductive, because I think that's how many of us probably now are probably looking at tools like ChatGPT and Gemini in a totally different way. What would be some of your rongoā, I guess, that people right now could probably implement? Or what are some of the things maybe that we should be really wary of right now?
I think if you're learning te reo Māori, there's some support this tool could give you, but ultimately it's built, I feel, on stolen data. So if you are using it in te reo Māori, then you're kind of supporting that notion of stealing Māori data and repurposing it is kind of okay. I mentioned that it was seductive, so we really want to stop our children using an overseas tool for our language and for our knowledge. We can't say to our children, stop using it. Don't just going to use it anymore. I mean, even somebody told me to stop using it. I'd probably use it a little bit more. What we have to do ultimately is build a better tool. We have to give the children, our Māori speaking audience, an option. Here's the tool from ChatGPT, and then here's the tool from Maniapoto, for example, or here's the tool from Taranaki, or here's the tool from Tūhoi. And if you whakapapa to one of those iwis, then I'm thinking you probably want to go to your own tool. But it's not just because you want to support it, it's because the dialect that we'll be speaking or is a dialect you should be learning. The knowledge that it's sharing is a knowledge that it's comfortable as an iwi perspective and it's comfortable to share. So it's seductive, it looks cool, a lot of people are using it. We need to be aware of all of the ramifications of that, basically.
He whakaaro au mo te paitawhiti, mo te apopo o a tātou rautaki Māori, and its connection with how we might want to start using AI, and if organisations are trying to lift te reo in their workplace or a whānau.
So one of the challenges with AI is that like a year ago, 2 years ago, it wasn't around. Now it's here, so it's become available instantly. A lot of our rautaki reo Māori, we've had time to think about and plan and prepare. We haven't had any time with AI. It's just boom, it's here, and it's available in te reo Māori. So it's not surprising that it's caught a lot of organisations, a lot of knowledge bases on the hop, because it's been so prevalent so quickly. In terms of iwi, in terms of rautaki a iwi mo te reo, we definitely have to start bringing this into the conversation because it's being used so much. I remember a long time ago learning songs from kapahaka, and the way we used to learn them was just over and over, one sentence, do that 10 times, and the next sentence 10 times, and over, being in a room, all of us doing it together. Then we got our phones and we could record it. We don't need to be in the same room. We can do all of that learning on our own. Well, the same thing is happening with our reo and this kind of technology. It's becoming so readily available in terms of planning about how we should be introducing our language or teaching our language or growing our language. It's got to be a part of that planning. because it's here, it's available, it's being used. So it's important that it's a part of that planning. And if today does nothing else but it makes some of the iwi around our country think, we need to start thinking about this a little bit, then today's been worth it, I think.
And jumping on that, what would be your message to if e runanga may be watching us right now, or if iwi members are listening in, what might be your wish or moe that you would encourage them to be thinking about and leaning into about AI and its relationship to te reo?
So really, I think it would be good if our iwi leaders started talking to our children and just asking them, are they using AI? Are they using AI in te reo Māori? If they're not, no problem, it's not so much of an issue. But if they are, then, okay, well, let's start thinking about how we can build our own AI. How, as an iwi, we can create our own AI that's based on our dialect, that speaks like us, that tells our stories. Because, yeah, I totally believe that it's possible to do this. If we have the right data, we need funding, of course. Right data, some funding, we can start supporting our language through these types of technologies. But yeah, ask the children. I'm sure they will respond to say that they've been using it for a little while.
We've got what I want to say is a big pātai from our hunga mā taki. What are your thoughts about machine-based Māori consciousness emerging, as some have hypothesised will occur through large language models? Do you think this entity would be granted the equivalent of personhood? How would such AI fit within te ao Māori?
That's a really good question. That's a really good question because it should be answered from a Māori perspective. In terms of personification, that's part of what we do. We personify our mountains, our rivers, pretty much everything. So my thinking is there's no reason why we wouldn't personify the responses we're getting from an AI. But there's some interesting questions that are asked, like, well, does it have a Māori? Where was that Māori generated from? Is it supportive? Is it not supportive? So I think these are questions that we don't have to have an answer right now. I think it would make excellent conversation for the middle of a wānanga. And I think particular iwi really should have their own perspectives. Even particular hapu. We're going to use this AI. This is how it's going to look. This is what it's going to sound like. This is how we're going to treat it and how we're going to talk to it. This is how we're going to allow it to talk to us, to share with us. So those are some of the exciting conversations I think we have in front of us as we use this tool more.
Well, and thinking about those exciting conversations and thinking about this being the 50th anniversary of Te Wiki, what might be, I'm stealing this pātai from the crowd, thinking about the 100th anniversary of Te Wiki, where do you see Te Reo Māori and AI in 50 years? Thinking totally out of blue skies, out the box.
It may be the case that our engagement is a little different. So this is, in this particular week, we're sharing this information on a webinar. Maybe 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, everybody would come and be seated around and hear for yourself. Today we're sharing it on a webinar. Interesting, I flew from Hamilton to share something on a webinar when, in theory, I've got to just jump on the webinar from Hamilton. 20 years from now, 50 years from now, maybe our engagement is virtually. So maybe we'll be engaging in a room where we're not physically there, but the experience is as if we were physically there. You can hear and see and experience the expressions that we're doing, but yeah, you're just connected. And whether 50 years from now, it might not even be a headset, it might be a chip that's in your arm or something that's providing the connection, that's connected to your brain, that's enhancing your senses in such a way that it's appearing as if you're in the same room hearing the same conversation. But I think that's something that we should design ourselves. I think rather than overseas technology saying, here's what we can do, I think as Māori, as young, innovative, challenging Māori, let's figure out how we want to do this. Maybe we could have the taste of our rivers, those of our rivers that we're able to drink. Maybe we could have the feel of the winds, of our home winds blowing through us as we're engaging in this conversation.
Thinking about, I guess, building sovereign tools. And I know in previous kōrero you've talked about iwi really leaning into building these AI tools and kind of ensuring that the knowledge that it's receiving is centric to the rohe it's come from. For people who don't know what that means, what does a sovereign Reo Māori AI tool actually look like? And how can it be achieved in practice?
So I think the word sovereign is a word that Parliament has taken over a little bit to recognise Parliament, recognise Aotearoa New Zealand as being different to the rest of the world. But I think with Māori, the word sovereign is a little bit more different in that Māori within their own mana motuhake, within their own tino rangatiratanga, have control over everything. So a sovereign AI is, they've built the AI, Māori have built the AI, and rather than a collective, my thinking is still it's an iwi, and iwi has built the AI, and iwi has manipulated the AI so that it only shares information that it's comfortable sharing, and it only shares that information with the people that it wants to share it with, primarily, I guess, through whakapapa. It would be the iwi that would say, we're going to move in this direction, we're going to enable this conversation, we're going to enable this kōrero, the iwi has total control. So for me, sovereignty is about having control, having governance over your technology, over your data, and over your knowledge system. So ultimately, perhaps Taranaki has their own sovereign AI system that they're engaging with their children, with their people, with not just children but all generations. Maybe that sovereign AI is also controlling the social media aspect. So the stories that it's sharing, the stories that it's highlighting are ones that support iwi initiatives. And then Maniapoto would have their own, and then Ngāti Whakaue perhaps would have their own. So that's how I see it. I see it as sovereign AI is an ability to have control over everything it says, everything it does, how it engages.
Do you, thinking about our international community and tangata take from around the world, are you seeing any other communities pursuing or making any big leaps in AI and revitalisation?
So I've been doing a little bit of work with an organisation called Te Kahuiraronga, and that's one of the things we're doing is we're going around other Indigenous people around the world and just seeing where they are in terms of AI. So far, most of the groups that we're talking to don't really have a sufficient amount of data and structure to be able to building and shaping their own AIs. But they do have concerns, and those concerns are around the same concerns we have, how the AI is going to affect their people, their language, their knowledge systems. But as of yet, I haven't really, and to be honest, I haven't really looked that hard, because sometimes you just got to build it yourself. My focus as well, if there's no other international organisations that have got the depth of what we want to build, then let's build it ourselves, and then let's make that template available so that when other iwi, other indigenous groups have sufficient amount of data and sufficient amount of structure to be able to do the same thing, here's the template. Kind of like we built this particular voice, not a little bit because we wanted to have a Waikato Maniapoto voice, but mostly because we wanted to make it available so that other iwi could have their own voice. And that's there now, that process is available. So in a similar manner, if we can build our own sovereign AI, then the thinking would be to build it in such a way that other indigenous languages, indigenous people around the world could follow suit and empower their own people with their own knowledge and through this kind of technology.
And speaking of this kind of technology, someone's got a great pātai, and I guess it's one of a practical one, and I'm not sure if you can whip out some numbers, but if we have a good amount of our content, if we have a good amount of our own content, what would be the appropriate time and cost for an iwi to teach their own AI? Or maybe even to, add another reo to the template you've got?
Okay, to actually build an AI, it's difficult to predict the cost at the moment. We're looking at trying to build some sovereign AI in New Zealand, and once we've done some of that, we'll have a better idea of costs. Something like this voice is a little bit easier to create. We created it with about 8 hours of video recordings. So we paid, we didn't just get that for love, so we paid our speaker, we paid somebody to proof it, and then we also paid like an engineer to kind of put it all together. But something like that, that's maybe 10K, maybe 20K, so it's not really that expensive. The biggest thing is really, as an iwi, realising that's important, and then thinking about what data we have, protecting that, and then thinking about how you could take a voice like this and where you could engage it. What are the possibilities? If you've got a site where most people are connecting to, do you want this voice to be the voice of that site? If you've got a whole lot of text that you want to make available, do you want this voice to be the voice that's speaking? So it's really thinking as well about some of the use cases. But yeah, in terms of the voice, 20K could create a voice. And it's just really having the right people acknowledging that this is quite important to us as an iwi. So
I'm wary that I'm just kind of I feel like I'm using you like Google. Answer this pātai, answer that pātai. But I guess as we start to wrap up, I think this is a beautiful pātai. What advice would you give to Aotearoa whānui, individuals and businesses, to keep culturally safe in developing and using AI?
Okay, so I think that's a good question in terms of culturally safe. I think Aotearoa whānui, in terms of individuals and businesses, need to be aware of this thing called cultural license. Do they have the cultural license to be using this technology? Do they have the cultural license to be using this data? And if they do have the cultural license, then I think it's okay. In general, an AI tool that's built or that's speaking to Reo Māori, the guys who built the tool didn't really have the cultural license to do that. So I think we need to be wary about building devices or opportunities off that tool, because we're just supporting an unculturally safe repurposing of our knowledge systems. So yeah, I think keeping culturally safe, being aware of the data that's used and really who has authority over that data. So there's this thinking around Māori data sovereignty and Māori data governance. So if there's a tool that you want to use and it's an AI tool and it's using Māori data or Māori language, then just asking the questions, who has the right to that tool, who has the right to that data? How can, because I don't think if we can do it in a culturally appropriate way, I don't think it should stop us. I don't think it should be the case we're never going to use any Māori data ever again in the world because it's just too hard. I think we should be able to use it, but in an aware way, in a way that's understanding the cultural background and the sovereignty and the responsibilities in the governments over that data. So really it's just about being culturally aware of the data, of the tools that we're using, and then checking with an authoritative source if it's okay to use that data. Perhaps a Māori Language Commission might be a good place to check in the beginning. What are their thoughts? If I use this tool in this way, is that a culturally correct thing to be doing? But like I'm a computer scientist, we should build stuff. We shouldn't be too restricted not to build or not to use things. So, but yeah, great question in that the question is asking, what are the cultural safe things we should be doing? And that's the question we should continue to ask. So ask that question, and then if it's appropriate, use those tools.
Hei, whakakapi i tā tātou wānanga i tēnei rā. Tēnā hea o kupu āki, kōrero aki ki te hunga mātakitaki, me tā rātou haerenga tahi me te atamai hanga me te reo.
So, ko tāku kia tātou, meheme e tika ana, whakamahia i nei taputapu. Mihi mea e whai wāhi i rungi te tika, whakamahia. Tuatai tuarua, ki te kore e tika ana, ma tātou anō e hanga i a tātou ake taputapu. Me te mea no, me whakapono tātou e tai ana e tātou. Mihi mea e pono ana tātou e tai ana e tātou no reira. Kia kaha tātou. Ko tēnei te reo Māori no reira. Kia kaha ki te kōrero. Kōrero i te reo Māori. Kia kaha ki te whakamahia. Te reo Māori, ko a waha, ko a kōrero, a tui, a AI rānei. No reira, kore tāku kia tātou. Tēnā koe, Sani.
Tēnā koe matua, e kore rawe e mutu ngā mihi kia koe, me o mahi nui hei para i te huarahi mā tātou, me te atamai hanga mō te reo. Hoa nō rā, kia tātou katoa, kua hui mai nei, kua karapine i tēnei rā, me nei kōrero, pāna ki te reo me te atamai hanga. Ko te mana ko nui, i tino rongo kautau i ngā hua, kei mui i a tātou, me tērā pai tawhiti, kei mui i a tātou katoa. Nā, koina te kōrero matua, ko te pai tawhiti, whaia kia tata, ko te pai tata, whakamaua kia tina. Hui e, tae ki e tēnā tātou katoa. Thank you.